Well, looky, looky. According to a new report, Wendy Williams does not have frontotemporal dementia. We have to unpack that and so much more. Here's your Wendy Williams update.
Here we go now.
Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your number one source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So a lot of you are always hitting me up asking me, what is the update on Wendy Williams? And I don't report on every single legal update unless there's a major turn of events. And this is a major turn of events. But before we get to that, there was an update back in September in regards to the litigation that the Guardian, Wendy Williams' Guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, was going through. As you know, after the Lifetime documentary, Where is Wendy Williams, came out, Sabrina Morrissey did not look great, so she decided to sue on behalf of Wendy Williams, saying that A&E and Lifetime took advantage of Wendy. And some might agree with that. However, people also agree they feel as if this guardianship is taking advantage of Wendy as well. So let me just give you a little update from September and more in regards to Sabrina Morrissey and her alleged shady past. Okay. So according to People magazine at the time in their exclusive, they said that a new ruling has been made in the ongoing battle over Lifetime's documentary about Wendy Williams. According to court documents obtained by People, a judge issued an order on September 15th to extend the stay of the legal proceedings against A&E television networks while Williams' separate guardianship case is reviewed. A joint letter updating the court on the status of the case must be submitted by November 5th. Additionally, the judge granted A&E's request to depose the former daytime talk show host, who's 61, which must take place by November 4th. So this is why I'm mentioning a lot of this information. They said this will be a de bene essay deposition, which occurs in anticipation of future need, when a witness's ability to testify later on might decline due to circumstances such as age, health, fading memory, for example. So it's important to note this because of what we're talking about in this video. And what we've noticed with Wendy Williams, we have not seen a decline that you would normally see with someone with dementia. And remember, frontotemporal dementia is similar to the diagnosis that Bruce Willis is facing, who we have not seen since his diagnosis. So the ruling cites Williams' 2023 diagnosis of primary progressive aphasia and frontotemporal dementia, which has contributed to keeping the television personality under a guardianship despite her many denials that she is, quote, cognitively impaired. Her current guardian, Sabrina Morrissey, who filed the lawsuit against A&E and is awaiting a decision from the judge in the guardianship case to determine whether she will remain in her role and if Williams still requires a guardian following a new medical evaluation. And you may recall there was news that came out that, the medical evaluation confirms that she has frontotemporal dementia. And then Wendy's lawyer says, who's releasing this information? First of all, this is her private medical information. So why are the blogs getting this information before even Wendy Williams gets this information? So her attorney that was hired says that he's not believing any report that comes out. So still the judge states in the new ruling that Williams' condition does not insulate her from providing testimony in this case because the federal rules of evidence does not contain any requirement of mental ability for witnesses. So this is why they're saying back in September that she can be disposed, and they want to dispose her now, so just in case there is some sort of cognitive decline. Per the docs, he says it will be up to the jury in the case to decide what weight to give Williams' deposition testimony. And the other element about guardianships and what I learned and what I think a lot of people learned from the Where is Wendy Williams documentary, this is why I'm sort of twerking on a fence when it comes to, did they take advantage of her in that documentary, or did they expose what's been happening to her and what's been happening when it comes to guardianships across this country? Because that is exactly what the producers behind the documentary said. It changed from doing a documentary about Wendy Williams and actually doing a documentary about guardianships and the abuses that can happen in guardianships. The other element that we learned from the documentary was the fact all of these litigations that these guardians reportedly get into really drains the money that the person might have. And there are rumors, you may recall the rumors that Wendy Williams' money, according to her best friend, that she heard from someone else that was close to the situation, that all of the Wendy Williams' money was gone. I don't believe all of her money has been gone, but all of these silly litigation that Sabrina Morrissey's getting involved in, particularly this lawsuit, feels as if there might be money that is a lot of money that is gone. Remember, one of the stipulations that Sabrina wanted in this lawsuit against A&E, they wanted all of her health care to be taken care of by A&E for the rest of her life. And I was like, that stood out to all of us. Like, why would she need that when she has health insurance, when she has the money to take care of that? So that doesn't make sense to me why you would ask for that in a lawsuit. But maybe, again, I'm not a lawyer. Maybe that's something that they normally would do. A source exclusively tells People that the attorney suing A&E said at a September 5th hearing that the docuseries was so horrific that it could no longer be found on the air anywhere. Attorneys for A&E later admitted that they had taken the series down, claiming that it was out of respect for the legal proceedings, which makes complete sense to me that they would take that down. So in August, Williams' guardianship was upheld after doctors determined on, quote, they said, determined an opinion, quote, an opinion of her neurological condition and the status following completion of a new medical evaluation, which included a significant number of tests, both medical and neuropsychological, and scans, including brain imaging, according to docs obtained by People. An attorney for Morrissey requested an extension of the stay to November 3rd for a ruling on Williams' guardianship. The attorney also alleged that complications have arisen because various parties, including counsel for certain members of Williams' family, Williams' ex-husband, and others, have indicated their intention to challenge both the guardianship itself as well as Ms. Morrissey's status as guardian. In February of 2024, Williams' medical care team revealed that she had been diagnosed with progressive aphasia and FTD, frontotemporal dementia. The same day, Morrissey filed the lawsuit against A&E, seeking to halt the release of the documentary Where is Wendy Williams? She argued that Williams did not have the mental capacity to agree to participate in the program, but the efforts was denied by the court. The thing is, too, when you follow this, according to reports, Sabrina Morrissey was fully aware that this documentary was being filmed. What she didn't like was the results of the documentary. So to now say that she wasn't in full capacity to make that decision, but you knew that this was happening, so you knew documents were signed at the time. At least that's my understanding of the timeline of this situation. So speaking of Sabrina Morrissey, before we get to the crux of what we are here for today, shout out to Radar Online, but also our friends over at Wendy Archive on Instagram, because I saw this the other day in regards to them talking about Sabrina Morrissey's past. And if you follow our channel, if you're new to the channel, I've covered Wendy Williams extensively over the last, oh my gosh, how many years at this particular point that this has been going on. So be sure to check out some of the other videos, because we did do another video talking about Sabrina Morrissey and lawsuits that she's faced for previous guardianships. So that's an important, and I'll also cite it somewhere in the video as well. According to Radar Online, but this is a screenshot from our friends over at Wendy Archive, they have some highlights of Sabrina Morrissey was appointed as Wendy Williams' guardianship in 2022, giving her full control over Wendy's finances and personal affairs. But a new Radar Online report reveals that Morrissey had her own history of legal and financial troubles. And I think it's important to note that this is not necessarily related to Wendy Williams' guardianship, but a note to pay attention to someone's character. So back in 2006, Morrissey and her late husband sued the Metro-North Railroad after he allegedly tripped getting off a train. The lawsuit claimed that his fall caused, quote, great injuries, and even argued the incident affected their marital companionship. The case reportedly dragged on for 3 years before disappearing from court records, assuming, I'm guessing, they had some sort of settlement. Radar also found that Morrissey was sued by American Express in 1998 over alleged unpaid credit card debt. Something to keep in mind when you're talking about someone that's in control of Wendy Williams' own finances. Millions of dollars. The case lasted for 10 years before being resolved, though it's unclear how it ended. The revelation comes as Wendy Williams continues to face her own financial challenges under Morrissey's control, including the sale of her New York City apartment at the $825,000 loss, because they were just trying to move the property. So they just, and again, when it's not your property to sell and a loss, it doesn't hurt you financially. It hurts the person that you're selling for that has no say in the situation. So Wendy Williams' apartment that you saw in the documentary, they sold it, and we saw it empty in the documentary. And apparently she took on almost $1 million loss on that apartment. And that apartment's in the financial district. That's a poppin' area. Again, I don't know the timeline of when the apartment was actually sold. Again, I don't do real estate. Adrian, if you're watching this, feel free to chime in if you do real estate, especially here in New York. It's a little bit different. The financial district is a good area to buy property. I can't imagine taking a loss on that particular property. But again, I'm not familiar with the specs of this particular building and the timeline of when this happened. Many people have questioned whether Wendy's assets are truly being protected. Morrissey remains in control, as you know, of Wendy Williams' estate and decisions, while Wendy's family and supporters continue to push for transparency. With Reuters' new report, even more questions are being raised about the woman legally in charge of Wendy's life. My thing is, would you want someone that has a past of being sued by American Express and all these other accusations against her in regards to her guardianship behavior? None have, to the point, have had her removed. But there are questionable things. Would you want that particular person in charge of your well-being and finances? Not me, personally. But let me get you the update that you're looking for, because the most important update is from our friends over at TMZ, who have been on this case, and they even did their own Tubi documentary, which I was featured in for 5 seconds. And this is what they had to say in regards to the article. They said Wendy Williams does not have the medical condition a judge has used to justify keeping her in a highly restrictive guardianship for more than 3 years, according to a top neurologist. Sources with direct knowledge tell TMZ Wendy recently completed a battery of tests in New York City, and the neurologist concluded that she does not have frontotemporal dementia. The neurologist provided Wendy's legal team with the results late last month. The findings conflict with an earlier test when, according to Wendy's guardian, she tested positive for the condition. And the sad thing about this world today, there are people that could be paid off to tell you or tell a court whatever you want them to tell you. That's the sad part. And the even scarier part is that this is happening to such a prominent individual. Can you imagine what's happening to other people? So they continue. They said the findings conflict with an earlier test when, according to Wendy's guardian, she tested positive for frontotemporal dementia. Frontotemporal dementia, according to multiple experts to whom we have spoken, never gets better, only worse. And we've seen Wendy even more since the Free Wendy movement started. Yet Wendy has exhibited remarkable neurological resilience since she became clean and sober 3 years ago, although she is still locked in the guardianship. TMZ's told that Wendy's legal team will file legal docs in the court in the next 2 weeks, paving the way for a hearing where they will ask the judge to terminate the guardianship. If the judge digs in and refuses to end the guardianship, powerhouse lawyer Joe Tacopina will then demand a jury trial and ask jurors to free Wendy. And this is why it's important for all of us, content creators, fans, to be putting a spotlight on this, because that puts a spotlight on the judge and these legal proceedings. Speaking to Tacopina, Wendy attended the wedding of Joe's son, Chris, who married Emma White, by the way. Chris is about to get his second Stanley Cup ring. He's the data analytics manager for the Florida Panthers. So Wendy Williams was at their wedding. So it's nice to know that Wendy has a legal team that's going to fight for her. As you know, Joe Tacopina very well. He's been a part of a lot of high-profile cases. He's talked about this Wendy Williams situation with the media recently as well. So this is good news. According to Wendy's legal team, they've had a top neurologist assess her and have her go through a whole assortment of tests, and they're seeing something completely different. Of course, he's not going to reveal what they are seeing, but what we have seen from the public, because Wendy has spoken to paparazzi, in the last year, we have not seen a steady decline. Have we seen the Wendy Williams that we've known and love? There are definitely glimmers there, but there's definitely something else going on with Wendy. But again, I say that with saying that doesn't mean that Wendy needs to be in a guardianship, especially a guardianship controlled by someone that's not her family member and that might have a shaky past, allegedly. Guys, as always, I want to know your thoughts and opinions on this Wendy Williams update. Let's continue this conversation in the comment section. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Thanks for watching.
Here we go now. Here we go.